Greetings and welcome to EHA Unplugged, the official podcast channel of the European Hematology Association, EHA. This is a special Lighting the Flame edition where we talk to some of our promising and active members in the hematology community. Our guests in this podcast series have volunteered their time to attend and facilitate the Lighting the Flame program where they mentor young trainees and medical students in their field of hematology. In this podcast series, they talk about their experiences in their field and give advice to those who are interested in becoming a hematologist. So sit back and enjoy the podcast. Disclaimer: this interview was recorded outdoors during the Lighting the Flame workshop in Romania, in a wonderful location next to the fields and forest. Therefore, you may hear some cricket noises in the background.
So, welcome to this session in Lighting the Flame, where we're going to talk about research in hematology, how to find a lab, and also how to implement lab work and techniques in diagnostics. And I'm Kirsten Grønbæk. I am a professor of hematology from Rigshospitalet in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I'm happy to have some experts with us today. So,
I'm Simona. I'm a group leader at the University of Manchester in the UK, and I'm leading the leukemic stem cell niche group there. And I'm Anastasia Conti, and I'm working in the Sara Ferretelleton Institute for Gene Therapy in Milan, Italy. And I'm working in the unit of senescence in stem cell aging, differentiation, and cancer.
So my name is Prof Konstanze Döhner. I'm a hematologist working at the University Hospital in Ulm, Germany, and I'm also leading the lab for molecular diagnostics there.
thank you very much. So I think first of all, I would like to hear all of you. So how did you pick your subject, what made you choose this as your main interest? Maybe.
Yes, maybe I can start. Yes, I was particularly interested in hematology since my PhD training, actually also during my master degree courses. I really loved, because I'm a molecular biologist, to deeply investigate the mechanism underlying hematological diseases. So that's why I decided to continue in my journey on hematology.
So is it a special, what is your specialty with it?
Actually, I had a master in molecular biology and then a PhD in hematology. And now I'm searching a new potential cure for hematological diseases, in particular AML. And in my institute, because this is an institute of gene therapy for hematological non-malignant disorders, we are now trying to figure out approaches such as gene editing to correct genetic diseases and so to correct hematopoietic stem cells for new therapeutic cures.
Very interesting. What about you?
So, I think my interest for leukemia started during my PhD. I was working on a typical chronic myeloid leukemia in Milan that didn't have a target at that time. We discovered a new mutation, that is SERPP1 mutation. And then basically after my PhD, I decided, okay, I want to work in hematology. Then I changed a bit because I wanted to implement what I knew, and then I challenged myself, changing a bit field. So now I'm working on AML, acute myeloid leukemia, looking at the hematopoietic compartment and the niche, so where the hematopoietic stem cells and the leukemic stem cells.
So the interaction between.
Yeah. So basically I used stuff that I learned in my PhD, that I was working from a very clinical background. I introduced also the normal malignant hematopoiesis and the niche and the aging concept, and now I'm kind of doing both of them in my lab.
Maybe I can ask both of you that. What's the hottest topic then in AML now? Can you agree on that? Biology and understanding.
I think maybe it's really trying, because I do that, but I think it's really something that everyone is getting interested in, is the niche, the microenvironment, because obviously we know that before we were thinking that the new therapies were just going to target the leukemic stem cells. Now we know that there is much more, and the context is very important. So you need to get something that can target also the microenvironment, trying to see how you can destroy the connection between the microenvironment and leukemia, keeping the one between microenvironment and the HSC. And that's, I guess, the future stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, if I may add, the fact that because generally, we are focused on the AML cells, but actually not on the molecular biology that, for example, can be triggered by chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is the standard of care for treatment, but now in our lab we are also focusing on the side effects of chemotherapy, because, for example, in a lab in which we study also DNA damage, and chemotherapy can induce DNA damage.
Yeah.
So now we are trying to exploit also this feature of the therapy, because we know now that these cells are becoming senescent, and so we are exploring also the response of the T cells, for example, against these senescent cells as an additional target therapy, so not focusing on a specific target, but on a senescence phenotype that, of course, is more complex, but with the final goal of improving the cure.
Very interesting. And Konstanze?
So as I already mentioned, I'm a hematologist, and I was fascinated by the heterogeneity of these kind of diseases. And I'm not a basic researcher, but I'm doing translational research, and from the very beginning on, I was interested in the research group that we find out prognostic and predictive markers for our patients, and using this information that we find or that we have found to translate them into clinical trials. And this is something we've done for more than 20 years now. And this, I think, is now nicely reflected in these phase 3 trials that we are conducting. And these are really trials that are focused on a more precision medicine. So we determine a panel of prognostic markers at the very beginning of the disease, at the time of diagnosis. We do a risk stratification, and we also look for the identification of markers that can be targeted by the novel drugs in combination with chemotherapy. And we are also focusing on the role of measurement of determining, monitoring measurable residual disease. So we implement our findings directly into the trials and into the treatment of the patients. And this is something where I'm fascinating in. And now I think we're coming together on the research side and from this translational side, which I think is a really nice development.
Yeah. So then maybe a little bit of a different question that might interest a lot of the young students. So how did you find a good mentor? What would you advise them if they want to find a good mentor? First of all, how did you find a good mentor, and what did you do?
Personally speaking, my first mentor was my professor. So I was fascinated about how he was telling us molecular biology in my case, and so I decided to spend a period in his lab during my master training. And I was pretty lucky in the sense that actually he is one of my best mentors also nowadays. The advice that I can say to the guys, and I also said during my workshop yesterday, is that I think that if a person can fit with you just in my personal experience at first sight. So if you see that there is, a match, actually I think that this can be good. And on the other side, a mentor for me is a person who can be a supportive person, who can give you advice, career advice, personal advice. So I think that if this is the right person. And during my career, basically, mentors were mainly associated with my supervisor at the beginning, but with the TRTH that I had the chance to attend last year, that was this mentoring program, I also had the chance to know more people, and just looking at them, personally speaking, I can say that I saw, okay, these are my mentors that I can continue to have in my life. And so also attending and applying for mentoring training, I think can be a good advice to say to the guys, just to increase the chances to meet new people.
Thank you. What about you? Yeah?
I think mentorship is key in our job for young scientists, but also not for the super young. I mean, I think you may have a lot of mentors in different steps of your career.
Yeah.
I've had mentors that have been extremely important when I was finishing my PhD in kind of helping me deciding what I wanted to do. One of the big mentor that I had just gave me the opportunity to be in the UK, and I'm still in the UK. So, I need to be very, very, I acknowledge that a lot. Then there is the time when you are a postdoc, and then, also that time is very difficult, and you need to have a mentor that you trust, that can give you, that can trust your work and believes in you when you are kind of thinking maybe that's not the right time, maybe I want to change job. There is a lot of stress that is coming with the jobs. Finding the right people that can support you is very important. And also, as a group leader now, I know that I have some mentors that I can count on, strategic mentors, not just PIs in the same field, but also people that can tell you how to proceed with your career, to build, strategically.
Which is a little bit different, I guess.
That is different, My mentor from this point of view is my head of department. He knows exactly what you need to do, probation, tenure track, position, everything. I also had a mentor in hematology because I'm still learning. I'm a young PI, so obviously you need someone that is experienced, that is senior, and you can count on.
So it's a lot about, I have the feeling it's a lot about trust also. Or
Absolutely, I would say yes, definitely it's about trust.
And also, I think what you're saying is that at different stages in your life you need different mentors.
Yes.
Because I was thinking about the transition from the mentor you have during your PhD to the one you need. Don't you actually need to get rid of your PhD mentor?
It was not the same person. It was actually another person.
Yeah,
I need to say that. It's amazing if you found a mentor in your line manager or in your supervisor, but sometimes there may be conflict of interest. You want to do something else, is your career, and someone is happy to keep you. It's just like, it's very important to have the idea from someone that is outside from your lab or, just your circle, and get also support from there. And these people, at least in my experience, also my mentor that I mentioned during my PhD, is still supporting me. I still meet him at the HERE conference. We had a chat recently. He knows what I'm doing. Yeah. He knows, my career. And I think in UK we are working on that a lot. I just recently got a grant from Leukemia UK, and I just introduced a mentoring program where you, as a person that has been awarded the grant, you can choose between all the people that are in this charity to be mentored from one of these senior people, because I think we are realizing the importance of mentorship day by day. So absolutely.
I guess it's a little bit different for you now. But in the beginning, I guess you also had a mentor, right?
For sure. I still have mentors. Yeah. I think you always need a mentor. The level of mentorship is different when you are more experienced.
Yeah, it's different.
But I think for the young, in particular for the young researchers and for the young hematologists, networking, I think, is very important to find the right mentor. And there are some objectives you can also use to find a good lab and a good mentor. It's first you have to know what you would like to do, and then you have to find a lab that is actually working on exactly that focus. Yeah. And then you can reach out to these people. You can see, okay, how productive they are, how many postdocs are there, what are these postdocs doing, do they have authorships, do they have time for growing, so starting from a first authorship, becoming a senior author. This is something showing that the mentor is able to
also give away a little bit,
to let you develop, and maybe to give you an own research group at a certain stage. Yeah. And also that the mentor is often connected and has lots of collaborations that offers you the possibility to go for a postdoc somewhere. And I think these are objectives you can find out quite easily. And by networking, it's much more easier because you get to know the people, and they can talk to them and ask, how was it in the lab, and how competitive are the projects that are there. There's some really huge and very popular and famous labs, but it doesn't help if you as a researcher has to work on the same project with 5 people.
No, exactly. And that's what happens.
And this is what happens when there's a great mentor in Boston or in New York or wherever. You have to go, but at the end you came back after 4 years and maybe you have
You are not really.
So I think you have to take all these things into account. And I mean, I also did a postdoc at a different level, but for me at this time it was very important to have a mentor who gives you the feeling what you are doing is really important, and I support you. And even if it's not running quite well, we all have these frustration periods. You need to have somebody who is being optimistic, or even if a project is not running well, to say, okay, maybe we have to go another direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just add something quickly? Because this was one of the questions that the guy said during my workshop. Like, it's not so easy to approach someone and say, can you be my mentor? That's something that I struggle to, because it's not like, I don't know you, you don't know me, how can I approach people? And I just told them, you don't need to approach people in this way. You can find, you can send an email, you can say that you are interested in what we do, you can just ask before a meeting to have a quick chat with this person and then see how it goes. But, there are a lot of people out there that are very happy to mentor you. You just need to find a way to get in touch with them, and
that's why I
approach them.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned, for example, the TRTH program, because, for example, for a shy person, a shy scientist, maybe also this opportunity to apply for a mentoring program can also, in a sense, break the ice. And you have the possibility, exactly, they are super important because you have the possibility to meet a lot of people in the same place. They are there for you, so they have not to just to cut a short time in their agenda for you, but you have the chance to spend a week, for example, in our case, with them, and so it's also easier to make connection.
And there is the CRTH, in case
or
people don't know,
that
is
also,
what I did. So if you want to apply, I think that's a absolutely fantastic program. It gives you so much. I mean, it has been the best experience in my life, honestly.
And I totally agree. And also this lighting the flame for the most young people, it's great because we are here for them. And so it's, in a sense, also for them it's easier to meet us and to discuss with us, share information, share emails. And so we, for example, said that we are here and we can be also connected in the future. So I think this kind of training program are very, very useful.
I think they're very helpful too. I mean, it's something that didn't exist when I was young.
Exactly.
Would have loved to be able to do. So, do you have more to add here?
No, I think the networking covers a lot of the programs that EHA is offering, and I think these little workshops for young hematologists, young researchers, and there's more than CRTH and TRTH. We do have the research congress or research meeting, which is for basic researchers. I think really very interesting with regard to get connected, and we also have these short days where we more focus on clinical issues. So I think that this is what we have to do when we think about the future of the hematology.
Exactly. And I think you have actually touched up on this, but this is how to choose the right lab. I mean, I think you said that you need to look at what is already the production. Would you want not go to visit the lab before? What would be?
I actually did the workshop that was how to find a lab, and I can just summarize what was my take-home message. There are 3 things you need to think about yourself. You need to find a place that you feel that fits with you, and you are not just feeling at home everywhere. The people in the lab, because you are sharing basically everything with these people and all your time every day. And the PI, that is the most important thing. And when I say the lab, I also mean track record is important, but it's not just a huge name. You need to be able to approach your PI, to talk to your PI, check if he is very communicative, check if they are publishing regularly. They can have a huge publication, but then postdoc need 7 years to publish, and that's not very strategic when you apply for your grant. So, I try to give them what I learned with my experience, because when I joined the first lab, I didn't look at all this stuff. I just learned myself that these are very important things. So I would say just find the place that you think is going to be good and follow your feeling. When you talk to someone, try to get the feedback if they are honest. how it's going in the lab, if there is teamwork, if you think this can be the right place to be for 3-4 years, whatever, because that's really what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and yes, I said to the guys the same 3 points basically, because also for me it's very important for sure to follow your love for science. So the research project, I think, is the first thing that you have to keep in mind when you choose your lab. Then the other important thing is your personal feeling when you see, as I said before, the PI, because sometimes you can love the project, but basically you are not so on the same line with your boss, and of course the team. So just to know if you are in the right lab, I personally suggest people to ask past lab members or present lab members to see the lab, to go there before accepting the position, just to understand if it's a right place for you and it fits with your personality. I think the environment. I agree, because it's important also to think about the future. So if it's a productive lab, speaking in terms of papers published, of course it will help in the career. But yes, if you feel settled in the lab, I think, and you are doing what you really want and fascinates you, I think you are in the right place.
And then I one thing I sort of forgot to ask, because now you're 3 women, are you mentors? Can I ask about, have they all been men?
In my case, yes, but I'm a little bit older than you. Maybe I hope that the times change.
I need to say I feel extremely lucky because I've had 2 mentors that are women. I've had, I think, if I count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mentors in total, 3 men and 2 women. One is Irene Roberts, that is a huge name in this field. She got the HEA Mentorship Award as well.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that she says I'm one of her girls. And I think, it's not that a man cannot mentor you. I have other mentors that are men and they are amazing and I really like them. It's just that sometimes we know that we are facing things that men don't see. They just cannot see that. And it's important in that case just to know that someone else has gone through that before you and can give you personal advice. She can just tell you, just approach this in this way or you do that in that other way. I think it is extremely important for a woman also to have someone that you can kind of reflect in. For me, it's been very important, at least in the transition from a postdoc to group leader, being a young group leader and a woman. It's not easy. So that is a huge experience, and is happy to share with me this experience has been amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, thinking about my experience, my first mentor was men. But yes, in the transition between a PhD student or postdoc position and now hopefully for the next step, I think in these last years my mentors were mainly women. And I agree, it's important for a woman to have the support also of other women because yes, there are some stuff that maybe talking with another woman are easier to explain. So yeah.
But in general, it's about the personality, of course.
Yeah, it's not about.
But I understand. It was just because you said, some of you said he, so it was.
You just need to click with that person. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman.
Exactly.
The man can understand more than a woman.
Yeah,
I've had other women that couldn't just be my mentor just because I didn't click. It's just finding the right person that understands. It's not about gender.
It's fine.
And I'm very happy to have also men mentors. It's not about that at all.
Yeah.
But I think it is important that we can realize or recognize that there is a kind of change in the composition of the good research labs. And I can only say when I did my postdoc, this was a world, this was dominated by men. And this was also true in the neighbor labs, this was true when I went to Canada, this was normal, you have to accept that. And there were not really female mentors for me at this time. So I think this is really a very good development and a sign that women scientists...
It also means that women are staying inside.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Very nice. And then, so if a young person wants to come to a lab, is it important that they know a lot about lab work already? If it's a master's student, PhD student, how do you evaluate the ones that come and ask you if they can join your lab?
I think it depends on what you are searching for, basically.
Yeah.
So, if, I don't know, you are starting as a new PI, maybe at the beginning, a person who has some training before, of course, will help you and accelerate the time just to start your research. But basically, what I think is that everyone is able to learn what he wants, basically, she wants. So I don't know, if a person is very motivated, has passion for science, but has not a great background about technologies, it doesn't matter. If he is resilient, an hard worker, I think that he can learn also quickly, so it's a good person for the lab.
So again, it's about personality and the energy.
No, I think this is the key. Yes, love for science and personal match, are the keys.
But I would expect from a researcher who has already finished his master's thesis or something like that, and you can easily read from what he has done in the before, and this is independent from the technique, how motivated the person is. True. And I must say, to be honest, I do have some criteria, and because I want that this person is working successfully in the lab, I totally agree you can learn everything if you are motivated. It's not depending what they have learned before, but that they can prove that they are motivated, that they have done something, that they have that they can a little bit work on their own and pushing things forward. I think this is always very good, and you can see this from the CV or from whatever they have done. And how curious they are if this is working for you.
Yeah. But I've seen, Connie, you must have quite a few MDs there, right?
Yeah, this is based to the fact that we are recruiting the MDs, the young hematologists, or the doctors that are in the curriculum to become hematologists. That they are often very interested in doing research. And I mean, as I said, as a clinician, as a hematologist, we do not really have so much basic research labs run by medical doctors. And this is why we are doing this translational research. And I think this is a very nice way to get into the business. And what we are trying to do is to give them, we call it a bread and butter project. A project that has that is limited for 1 or 2 years. A project where they can benefit from what is already there. A project where they have a high success rate to get it published. Yeah. And then we motivate them and we say, okay, if you are really interested in research, then we motivate them, apply for a PhD, apply for a postdoc, and go to a research crew wherever this is, Europe or US, and they often have a clear vision on that. And we have lots of these young people, medical doctors, going for 3 or 4 years to a research lab, coming back, and then
they got some skills with you, because I think that will be
exactly. And then they have to build their own research lab, and they have to deal with the fact that they have to go back to the clinic. Yeah, I mean that's often the challenge for them, to build up an own crew, to hire really good motivated researchers to run your projects, but also to be in the clinic. Mm-hmm. A read senior then. Yeah, but this model works quite well. And if people are interested in doing more than clinic, then they are welcome. Yeah, of course.
And I think most of the people, the guys that I've seen around, so they are all very interested in both of them, so clinics and science. I mean, they really want to understand how to balance that, how to enter also the science, because sometimes it's not. They don't know which is the process, how to approach the lab, if there are money. And I just told them, just get in touch, say that you are very interested, because that's what we want to see. Yeah. That you are motivated, that you like the project, that you are interested. We can teach you what we know, but the interest, I cannot teach you that. I cannot make you motivated to work on something. All the technique, I can train you, you can be trained, you can be helped, supported from facilities. but we want to see an interest. So get in touch with people, even if there is no position, nothing advertised, just tell me that you are interested. We're going to find a way if you really want to come. And that's what they want to hear, basically. But it's true.
Very nice. Yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that I think is very important when you work in the lab is this work-life balance. What do you think about that? How do you cope with yourself? How do you see your students doing this? And will it be the same with the next generation as was with you, for example? What do you think about it?
I have a very strong idea about that, very strong opinion. I mean, I was in Oxford before, and now I'm at the University of Manchester. So I think work-life balance is very, very important. And this depends a bit on the environment and, the culture in the institute where you are. I honestly think making people work 24 hours a day, not having weekends, that's not the right strategy. And burnout is out there, it's very close if you do that. So I'm the first one leaving the lab and saying, don't work in the weekend, try to avoid, working late. It's very important for me that you have a life. When things in the lab don't work, you need to know that your life makes you happy. That's just your work. And that's what I think about my life and what I want to see in people that work with me. And I know that it's very difficult in some places. This is not a very common idea, and that's why you need to find the right place also as a group leader. You need to find a place where they have the same values that you have. But I think, for us and for students, it's very important to balance both the things.
So is it possible to do good research if you go home at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock?
I don't think it's about the time that you spend in the lab, because sometimes they work 24 hours, but they are so tired that the data that you can use, that are produced, are actually not useful. You need to also have the time to rest. If you work, I've been a postdoc until 60 years ago. I remember what is being a postdoc. So I know that when I was working also in the weekend continuously, basically I didn't have a rest in the weekend, I was already starting the new week very tired. You may underestimate that, but then at some point your body is going to tell you that's too much, stop. And we don't want to get to that stage. You want to realize that before. When you are unexperienced, you underestimate, you think you can do everything. But with more experience, you know where to stop. And what I want is to make them know that you need to know where to stop. And this is very important. Yeah, I agree. In principle, no, it's a very good question, because actually from my personal experience, given that I'm doing what I really love, sometimes for me it's difficult to say stop. So I really like working in the lab, thinking about new ideas, reading papers, also at home after dinner. So it's during the weekend, yes. So because I consider this not just as a job, but as a passion. It's my job, let's say. So in some period, it's difficult for me trying to find a balance. But yes, in principle, I think, and I agree with Simona, it's important to have this balance at a certain point. Maybe I can say there are periods in which it's more difficult. I don't know, because you are submitting a grant, submitting a paper. So in that period, actually, this balance is not so possible. But yes, in principle, it's good to have a balance and also to create a serene life outside the lab. So yes, in principle I agree. Sometimes it's difficult for me, but I'm trying to balance the two aspects of life for sure. And I of course suggest that it's a good idea and to balance the two.
So Connie.
So I think we grew up at a time when we were driven by passion. And I was used to work, and I'm still used to work, much more than a life with a good life balance should allow. But I think I agree with both of you. I think you have to define your own life balance. And what I realized, and I'm often comparing the postdocs in my lab and the people working in my lab with the time when I was in the lab. And I have the feeling they have a clear vision of life balance, and this vision goes more in your direction.
Yeah.
So I do not have really to care that they are leaving not too late, or that they are not working at the weekend. It's sometimes the other way around. As you said, you do have situations, there's a trend, there's an abstract that has to go out.
And then
there is a culture that has to be feeded at the weekend, or some mice or whatever happens to them.
Yeah.
And then it's sometimes hard to find somebody, myself, saying, okay, I'm flexible. I think it's really difficult to find a good balance. And on the other hand, if you want to succeed at the end, if you want to compete with all these good research labs that are here, you have to, I think you have to add a little bit on.
Yeah.
That's maybe I'm too conservative, or too.
But,
Maybe we're a little bit old-fashioned, but that's true. Also, the product does not wait for you.
Most
right?
on your line, actually. But I agree with you. I also saw some new students arriving in the lab. They are clearly in mind what is the need. Actually, so in this sense, I think that I'm more conservative independently of my age, because yes, it's true. Nowadays, the new generation have clearly in mind the balance, and it's positive from
I think something. I agree. I also feel that something has happened. I think the important thing here is then to also balance the expectations towards that, because you cannot compete with, a primary lab in the United States where everybody works 24 hours. Maybe you can if you're lucky to find the big thing, but in general, there's a lot of hard work also, and so I find it very difficult actually sometimes. But I also agree with you, and of course.
Obviously, this work teaches you that there are different times. When I'm stressed, I have a deadline, I have a grant application. I take the stress, I try to not make them feel the stress.
Exactly.
I have a deadline. This doesn't mean I need to send you the email on Sunday. I should think about sending you the email on Friday, because I know I'm working in the weekend, but you are not supposed to do that. That's what I mean when I say work balance. And obviously, if you find a person that is motivated and there is something to do on Saturday, I'm not saying no, stop. I'm closing the door. I'm just saying.
But you have to respect them.
You need to respect them.
Exactly.
And it's also from them, taking the responsibility and the lead of their project. So knowing that there is a day where I need to start at 7, I've done this. Always, we had very long experiment working with mice sorting. I was starting very early and finishing very late. If I need to tell to my student to do that 5 days a week, I would never say that. That's the point. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if there is something else, another approach to do that. 2 people working on the same stuff so that you don't have this, overload. There are different strategies, but flexibility obviously is the key. There are times where you can be relaxed, when you can work in this way. Some other times when you have a deadline and everyone needs to work on that. But this is a team work, but as a PI, I want to get the stress because that's my job. But I don't want the PhD student or the postdoc to get my stress on the top of their stress.
Exactly.
That's basically my strategy. Maybe it's not a winning strategy, but I want people in my lab to be happy and not frustrated and unhappy. That's basically what I want.
All right, fully agree on that one. I think it's very important. And also, it's also a little bit sometimes planning from the side of the PI, We know there's this grant in 3 months. Maybe we should start a little bit before.
The PI
we
is
can try to
shaping.
do,
Things like that.
Yeah, but sometimes it's the other way around, and your postdocs make the stress to you
Because
they do not deliver, and then you are the one reading the abstract at midnight and sending it out 5 to 12. So I think it's a kind of education, a kind of respect to each other, and flexibility for sure is really very important.
And maybe also communicating clearly how you want it to be in your lab. I think that's also
I think in a sense we have to just to balance also relationships, right?
So I would like to thank you very much. It was very enlightening, and I think we heard a lot of different opinions, but also a lot of similar opinions. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice interview.
Thank you.